Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and in today's video, I'm going to be ranking the top 10 most busted weapons of all time throughout the Souls games. And this is of all time, so I'm going to say weapons in their prime, so if it's a weapon that got nerfed but was super OP, I'm going to include that in this list. And I'm going to start off the list with two honorable mentions. This first honorable mention might be a little bit higher, but I've personally never played with this weapon, and I haven't seen that much astonishing gameplay of it, so I can't really put it high on the list. And that's going to be the pre-nerf Dark Sword from Dark Souls 3. And there wasn't absolutely anything crazy about this, it just got like a 5 to 10% damage nerf because, it did a lot of damage and it was just a good sword. And taking up that second honorable mention spot is going to be the Dark Moon Greatsword from Elden Ring, and this is a weapon that I've actually played and I really love. This is one of the few legendary weapons in Elden Ring, and let me tell you, it does not disappoint. Not only is it just a good greatsword that is great for intelligence / magic builds, but it also has a special ability to buff its weapon, and with that you'll do frost damage on top of more damage, so it's a status effect right there. And you continuously, once it's buffed, you can continuously spam this projectile, which does crazy damage. It just absolutely melts bosses, and if we weren't talking about some pre-nerf weapons here, this would be very high on the list. And now it is time for the actual top 10, but before we get there, let me just advertise the possibility of you guys perhaps liking and even subscribing, and of course, let me know in the comments your opinions, any thoughts you had, anything you want to see, anything you want me to improve, just, let me know any thought that this video sparked in the comments. And coming in the 10th spot is going to have to be the Sellsword Twinblades from Dark Souls 3, which is arguably the best weapon in current day Dark Souls 3. It is super fast, you get it at the absolute beginning of this game, so you can just use it throughout the entire playthrough and it can carry you throughout your entire playthrough. It does a shit ton of damage, it's very easy to use, and all you really gotta do is level this weapon up, put a little buff on it, and just spam, and you will absolutely melt bosses. And I'm obviously not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it does have the highest damage per second out of any weapon in Dark Souls 3. And coming in the 9th spot is the Blasphemous Blade from Elden Ring. And as you'll see, there's quite a bit of Elden Ring weapons on this list. And I'm going to be talking about the Blasphemous Blade pre-nerf. Now, I know the weapon is still very good, but it did receive a pretty decent nerf right before the DLC. And that nerf made its weapon art do a little bit less damage. And it made the stagger back, stun thing where you fly in the air and can infinitely stagger people. It nerfed that quite a bit too, which should have a decent impact on the weapon. But let me tell you, this weapon absolutely shreds bosses. You can just spam the skill, do a shit ton of damage, and on top of that, the skill literally heals you a decent amount. So this is a very good weapon, especially for certain builds that utilize, infinite health healing. You can just spam this weapon and get away with it. And on top of that, the regular weapon is still really good. If you're not just spamming the skill art, it's a very cool looking weapon, and it just does a lot of damage. But if we're talking about its current day state, I would have to say the Dark Moon Greatsword is a little bit better. And now we're going to Dark Souls 1 for the 8th spot, and that is going to be the Zweihander. Mainly any really huge weapon, but specifically the Zweihander. And this is a game where you can just, this is a game where poise is super vital, like for you and for the enemies. So you could just spam the absolute fuck out of this weapon, and most enemies that get staggered after one hit or two, they just get infinitely staggered, and they cannot do shit. And this isn't a game like Elden Ring or Dark Souls 3, which the enemies have stepped up a bit, like the bosses, the enemies are a lot faster and able to move out of the way for certain types of attacks. In this game, they're a lot less mobile and kind of just stand there a little bit more and are slower. So with a weapon like this, you're not going to really get punished for having super slow attacks. And on top of that, the range for this weapon is absolutely crazy, man. Even if there is a pretty fast-moving enemy, they have a circle locked on you, so where they can only circle you. They're not going to go super far away. So with that, you'll kind of just hit the entire area around you and hit the enemies with it. And obviously, the downward slam for this weapon is absolutely crazy, where you just shove someone into the dirt, and they have to come back up, and you're already attacking them by the time that happens. And on top of that, the damage for this weapon is absolutely crazy. And I've been yapping about this weapon for a lot, so on to the next one. And that is going to be the Dark Souls 2 Rapier. Rapiers as a whole are very good. Now, I know people like to say the Dark Souls 2 Ice Rapier is the best, but I really feel like the regular Rapier from Dark Souls 2 is just by far the best in my opinion. I love rocking it, and that's just due to the fact that once you get to a certain point in the game, you're going to want to infuse your weapon, because you're going to have enough stats and faith and intelligence that infusing would just be the wiser choice, and I feel like that's better to do on a regular Rapier. Now, for why the Rapier is so good in Dark Souls 2, that's because stamina is such an important factor. The main challenge, one of the main challenges you're dealing with in Dark Souls 2 is trying to navigate the stamina bar, and you're always running out of stamina, and especially with bigger weapons, you can get 3 hits before you're out of stamina. With a Rapier, you you can get 5 hits and it does almost as much damage. It's way faster, and on top of that, you can roll out of the way after without, having to deal with having no stamina. A lot of the rapiers can be found early game, and as I said before, it's such a low commitment having to deal with a rapier, because you can just do one little quick poke and get out of the way. And coming up next is going to be the Twinblades, which is the last spot that I have for Dark Souls 2. And I know a lot of people like to say the rapiers are better than the Twinblades, and I feel like they quote-unquote can be more effective because you do find them early game, and you're most likely going to use one over a Twinblade. But any slow-ish enemy or just average-paced enemy, the Twinblade is going to annihilate. Because once you get that first hit off, you can just kind of spin your blade in a combo, and it does such crazy fucking damage, it's insane. I think it has the highest DPS in the game, especially with a fucking lightning ornament on it, or whatever you want to call it, where you buff it. Dude, it just dominates. It also has decent range, has a decent variety of attacks, and it's not that slow. Like, it's really not that slow. Like, a perfect example of a boss like this would dominate is the Rotten. The Rotten, like, he isn't by far the slowest boss in the game, but he's pretty stabilized, so you can kind of hit him a lot, and dude, this just absolutely melts. And coming up next is going to be our one and only Demon Soul spot, and that's going to be, I'm assuming you guys already know what it is, but it's the Meat Cleaver, and I really don't know what they were thinking when they added. I mean, this is just by far the best weapon in Demon Souls. Now let's get the first obvious facts of why it's so OP out of the way. Firstly, it has an S scaling for strength and dex, which just means it's going to last you the entire game. It's not going to be overshadowed by later weapons once you get higher leveled. It's going to be doing crazy damage throughout the entire game. Secondly, it starts off fully upgraded, like fully maxed, which means you don't have to farm materials, which means right when you get this weapon, it's going to be doing fucking crazy damage. And lastly, you get regeneration per hit, so you get an actual decent amount, and helpful amount of health healed every time you hit somebody with this weapon. And just missing the top 3 in the number 4th spot is going to be the Great Scythe. Now, I know a lot of you guys would like to choose the Black Knight Halberd over it and think it's just a better weapon, but it's kind of like The Rock versus John Cena situation. The Rock is a lot more quote-unquote famous, but John Cena is just definitely a better fucking actor, and that's kind of how this situation works out. The Great Scythe literally just takes the cake in every single way. It's not like a crazy amount better, but I'm pretty sure it's faster. It has less stat requirements. It does more damage. You can buff it. You can also infuse it with any type of element you want, which you cannot do with a Black Knight Halberd. And that's kind of it. But the Black Knight Halberd is already a crazy fucking weapon. So when you get a weapon like this that's super fast, does a crazy amount of fucking damage, has crazy amount of range, I mean, it's just busted. It's broken. And now we're in the top 3. And let me tell you, this might be a little disappointing, but all the top 3 spots are weapons that are not so good anymore, but were previously unstoppable before their nerf. And the first one being the Rivers of Blood from Elden Ring. Now, this weapon right now has been reduced to fucking ash. It is horrible. I haven't played Elden Ring in a hot minute, but the last time I played, man, this weapon was basically useless. But let me tell you, in this weapon's prime, I'm going to be completely honest with you, my first playthrough, I kind of just used this weapon throughout basically the entire game, because it didn't get nerfed for a long time. And for those who don't know what this weapon is, it is a katana that inflicts blood loss, but it does a whole lot more than that. Firstly, it does pretty decent damage, but its weapon art is where it really takes a step up. And its weapon art, you're just like spamming blood slashes through and through, and it causes so much blood loss, you can just basically farm blood loss on every boss and wipe them out. And on top of that, it has great range, it's really fast, and even if you're not proccing blood loss, it just does a shit ton of damage. And for almost every single weapon out there, there's a counter to it. Like, a greatsword isn't very good against fast-moving enemies like dogs. But for the Rivers of Blood, man, no matter what type of boss you were, what type of enemy you were, even if you were fully resistant to blood loss, it just did so much damage, and it was super reliable. And coming in the second spot is going to be the Sword of Night and Flame. And let me tell you, it was an absolute honor to use this weapon before it got nerfed. And when I was using this weapon, I was kind of stuck. I mean, I got past Limgrave, I got past Liurnia, but I was stuck in Atlas Plateau. I was way too weak to go through that area, and I was way too weak to fight Radahn, so I was stuck, and then I looked up what I could do, and then that's where I found the Sword of Night and Flame. And holy shit, this almost one-shotted Radahn. Now, basically, it's kind of a regular sword that does magic, fire, and regular damage, but it has 2 special arcs. The first one, you have a giant flame, like you just do a giant slash of flame, which has a shit ton of range, does a shit ton of damage, and it's great for clearing out mobs and fast enemies. But the second skill is the real kicker, it's the real carry, and that is like a buffed up version of Common Azure. I'm pretty sure it doesn't shoot for longer because it does take a lot of FP, but the amount of damage it did was fucking insane. It got nerfed within like 3 days. And just, that's like the entirety of this weapon. That weapon arc would just fucking carry it. You would just one-shot almost anything. And it just kind of made the game too easy, so I'm happy it got nerfed. And now it is time for the #1 spot. But before we get there, make sure to like and subscribe. And drum roll, please. This is a pretty obvious choice. It is the Perfume bottles from the Elden Ring DLC. And unfortunately, the state of this weapon right now is absolutely horrendous. These are one of the worst weapons in the game. They do no damage, have no range, and they kind of suck hot, fat dick. But in their prime, holy shit, was it busted. I personally use the lightning perfume bottles, but I would never use it on any important bosses, bro, because it was literally just a cheat code. You would literally just go up to them, spam it, and you'd one-shot them without having to do anything. And basically, the reason why it was so OP is because you throw out these mini projectiles, and you throw it like 10 at a time, and then each one would hit. So if you got super close to an enemy, all the projectiles would hit the same enemy, which would mean if you're having like 10 projectiles, each do like 300 damage, it's going to do a shit ton of damage, and that's exactly what it did. You would one-shot almost anything with this. And that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Check out my other videos. I do a lot of rankings, and I do a lot of Souls game challenge runs, so check that shit out.